Take a look at this very interesting map. Now, this isn't a normal map. This is known as a cartogram, like if a map and a graph had a baby, basically. And in this specific cartogram, places are not being sized by the land, but they're being sized by the proportion of formal jobs that they actually have. Now, if you're a young graduate or a young professional seeking employment, you're thinking, this is very interesting. Now, here's the part that should probably matter to you. South Africa's metropolitan areas only occupy about 3% of the entire land of South Africa, but they actually hold 65% of all formal jobs in the country. So even if you did not plan to move to the big city, the job market basically pushes you there, pushes you to Durban, to Johannesburg, or to Cape Town. Like many other aspects of our country, jobs are not spread out evenly. They basically pile up in certain places. They follow resources, money, people, the population, existing infrastructure, and all those nice things. Let's say you do eventually move to the big city. The next question is, where in these big cities do I actually have to live? So more people choose to rent out of vibes or the fact that they know someone that lives there, right? But the first suburb you're gonna choose to live in as a fresh-faced graduate, it's not just a lifestyle decision. This will literally change your day-to-day friction, your commutes, your safety habits. How often do you say yes to opportunities, and how tired are you after work? These are actually real questions. Moving to a new city is quite an overwhelming experience. There's actually a ton of research that points to the fact that as a young graduate, where you actually live for your first job speaks to your potential growth prospects as well. So today we're not going to do a generic top 5 worst suburbs for young graduates. This is a top 5 worst areas to live as a young graduate in South Africa's big 3 metros, Durban, Johannesburg, and Cape Town. So let's get into it. So to move away from our usual subjective analysis, we're scoring each one on 4 things here, right? That the research has outlined as factors affecting the lives of young graduates starting a new job. First being safety, like can you move around normally in your area? Affordability, the average South African graduate earns approximately 12,000 Rand a month. And in terms of rentals, there's obviously the 30% rule, but realistically and depending on where you actually live, this can go up to like 40%, which is kind of crazy. Commute access, the average South African graduate also does not have a car yet. And professional proximity, are you close to other job nodes? Could you be able to find more opportunities by being close to them? And there's a 5th thing that people often ignore. I call this commute brittleness. Because if your whole life depends on one transport line, one breakdown could actually mess up your entire job. Not dramatically, but quietly over time. I mean, if you're late all the time or you miss a meeting, probation doesn't get extended, and you know what happens next. Okay, let's count down 5 to 1. Coming in at number 5, we have Parow, specifically the Voortrekker Road rental belt in Cape Town. Now, let's unpack why it actually got the number 5 spot, right? So on paper, it looks like a smart move. I mean, rent can be doable in an entry-level 1-bedroom apartment in this area with rentals falling in the 5,000 to 8,000 Rand belt, right? And for Cape Town, that is very affordable. And you're not completely cut off because you have access to town as well as the northern suburb CBDs. Crime risk in this part of the corridor is not something that is foreign, right? It can change how you live, what time you go out, how you move, what you avoid, and those small little adjustments will add up over time. Also, Parow is one of those areas where local knowledge is like very important because a few blocks around your corner, it might look good, but on the other corner, it'll completely change your experience. So if you're moving to Cape Town as a fresh-faced graduate, you pick this area because it's kind of central and very affordable, but you could inadvertently just be choosing stress. This is one of those default young graduate landing zones as well. It's quite risky, but the choice is yours. You have been warned. Coming in at number 4, we have Parklands, also in Cape Town. Now, I'm convinced this one might annoy a lot of people because part of Parklands is quite modern, right? With restaurants, gyms, modern apartment complexes. It feels like, okay, I feel good, this is sorted. But structurally, Parklands might just not be the answer, right? For a young graduate moving to Cape Town for the first time. And I'll explain to you why. First and foremost, the distance. Not just to work, but professional proximity. I mean, we're talking about 25 to 30 minutes away from either the CBD or the northern suburb CBDs, and we haven't even considered the traffic. You could be traveling up to an hour at peak hour traffic. And over and above that, you are quite far from a lot of places where early career opportunities and networking effects could happen. I mean, you need to understand that your early career is not about your 9 to 5. It's actually about the stuff around that. And what I mean by that is the coffee after work, somebody who knows somebody, that 6 p.m. event where you accidentally learn what other industries are hiring, or maybe a competitor is hiring. The whole come through quickly type of opportunities, right? And secondly, the commute brittleness. A lot of people in Parklands depend on the same routes and the same bottlenecks. And when Cape Town traffic does what it does best, your entire schedule could go into the toilet. If you live far and you're commuting hard, you start saying no to a lot of stuff. Not because you're lazy, but because you're always exhausted. And that's why Parklands lands on this list, quite frankly. Not because it's a terrible suburb. I mean, there's many things wrong with it, but because it can quietly tax your career momentum as a young graduate. Coming in at number 3, we have Bellville CBD, also in Cape Town. Wow. Now, this one needs nuance. Bellville is a serious metro node, big transport interchange, lots of foot traffic, lots of activity if you're thinking in terms of just access alone. You might think, hey, this is not bad, this is quite perfect. But because of that, it does not automatically mean it's livable. In Bellville CBD, you can be close to the transport and still not feel safe within a short walking distance, right? You can literally be near everything, but you'll feel like your daily routine is quite defensive. And for a young graduate, that matters a lot. Because your goal isn't just to survive the commute, it's to have enough energy left to actually grow, not as a person, but within your career. If you know Bellville well and you got a job there, you can make a very smart, specific choice, you know? But if you're quite new to Cape Town and you pick Bellville CBD, just because it's central, could be a bit of a gamble. Something for you to maybe think about. Coming in number 2, we have Durban CBD and the whole beachfront belt. And yes, Durban's vibe is fairly different. The traffic feels a little bit lighter, the rent looks very tempting, and Durban still has real jobs linked to the harbor and engineering and manufacturing. So I get why people consider Durban CBD, right? It's central to all those activities. But Durban CBD and beachfront belt has a bit of a pattern, right? On the safety that can spike quite fast, and it changes how you live. You start timing your day around avoiding situations. You start choosing routes based on anxiety, not efficiency, and that constant defensive living is the opposite of what you need. You start moving like somebody who's trying to move weight across the country, which is crazy, right? And sure, it's quite affordable, but cheap rent is not actually cheap if it costs you stability. Coming in first place, we have none other than Johannesburg CBD. The whole CBD from Bram to the CBD, all the way to Hillbrow, I guess. And let me be clear, it's not Johannesburg that is the issue here. Johannesburg is the job market. It's the economic heartbeat of the country, and I would argue of the continent. But for a young graduate trying to build stability, that inner city is the highest risk choice on this list. Because the temptation is real. I mean, rent is magnetic. You'll see the prices and you'll be like, wow, this is quite good. You'll see the prices and feel impossible to go anywhere else. Now, centrally, it sounds like a win because transport is there as well. There's taxis and Rea Vaya interchanges. There's access to the Gautrain in Parktown, and you might even think this is actually quite efficient. But the downside is structural. And what I mean by that is safety is not something you're going to be managing occasionally. It's something you manage all the time in this part of the city. And that steals your attention. And your early career is basically an attention game. What are you focusing on? What are you locked in on? You learn fast, you're trying to perform, you're building relationships, you're trying to be consistent. Now, if where you live forces constant threat calculations, you're just having less time for growth. Now, quick disclaimer, this list is about the worst and not the only options. Not a judgment on everyone living there. Plenty of people make it work in these kinds of places, of course. But the point is simple. Where you live in your first couple of years, moving to a big city like Durban or Cape Town or Johannesburg isn't just a housing decision, it's a career decision. And this map makes it quite obvious because it shows you where opportunities cluster and how much friction you take on depending on where you sleep. So let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are there other suburbs within these big cities that you think should be a huge red flag for young graduates? Drop it in the comments and I'll see you guys on the next one.